Well, hello. Welcome to the final module. I don't usually quote Jim Morrison, but it seems like an appropriate place to commence. This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end. It's our final week of this term, and I have some mixed feelings about that. I have seen some excellent work during these weeks, and I really enjoyed my time with you. But I'm also kind of crazily frustrated by how we've only gotten to touch the surface of so many topics, so many authors, so much literature. At the close, we really see how cramped we are for time. So we're squeezing in work from one more author rather than stopping and reflecting on what we've done and how far we've come. And that is the usual way that I would like to, wrap up a course. So that's my preference, but I'm afraid compromises have to be made. So this week we have one last discussion, and you also have a final exam to complete. That exam should not be a huge burden. You have 6 questions to select from to answer, and most of these have been addressed in previous discussions. So of those 6, you have to pick 2, and you provide a paragraph in response to each one of about 150 words. So that's, a total of, say, 300 words, which we would say probably amounts to about a page of double-spaced type. So it is not, not overwhelming, all right? Because this is the end of the class, I do need to stress one thing, though, and that is that I have very little leeway in accepting anything late at the close of the term. Now, I'm required to have all the work evaluated and final grades posted on the Tuesday after our final lesson this coming Sunday. So that means I really have to have everything you're going to submit pretty much on time this time around. So if you wind up behind on other assignments, this is the final crunch. All work that is going to be graded has to be gotten to me with time for me to actually, read it, evaluate it, and get it included. So aim for Sunday, again, the last day for the classwork, aim for Sunday as a pretty fast deadline, all right? It is possible that I can accept stuff through Monday, but I'll be busy grading during that time, and sincerely, it can't be any later than that. That's just the truth, okay? I have to have time to work it. This week, we're going to turn our attention to one last naturalist, and one who has really attained the attention of the general public. It's extremely likely that, like me, when you were in middle school, you were given Call of the Wild or White Fang to read in your English classes. When I first got into studying naturalism, I actually remarked to myself that it seemed very odd how the works that have basically stayed in the consciousness of everyone in our culture have done so by being repackaged as kind of young adult literature. The same is true, of course, for The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane, which is also frequently taught at the middle school level. And it has been for, probably the last 70 years. With your exposure to the history of naturalism and the way it has consistently been presented as negative, you should also see how this is a peculiar genre for educators to choose to present to young minds. Yet, we have the proofs in our own education and experience. They so choose. London is a fascinating study all on his own, but I'll frame him in the same way that I've tried to frame just about everyone we've talked about this semester. Yes, he is a naturalist. He can be considered a naturalist. It's easy enough to prove. However, London's work is very broad in scope in a way that reaches beyond this definition. If you want to see naturalism in action, you can't go too far wrong from London's 1904 novel, The Sea Wolf. In that work, after an accident, a well-to-do young man is rescued by the crew of the ship of that same name. And he's forced to work as they wind their way through the Northern Pacific on their business of harvesting seals for oil. The ship is run by a brilliant but pitiless captain who has had to claw his way to his position. He makes it his business to strip the civilization from his new crew member, to either crush him to his will or make him a worthy opponent for him, and then crush him. It is quite literally a story of natural selection aboard the Seawolf. Now, like I say, that's naturalism, but London's work is just not exclusive to naturalism. Like Twain, he had great success as a travel writer, and I recommend both The Road and The Cruise of the Snark. They're separated by, I think, probably about 6 or 7 years. One deals with his early life, and the other, once he's, an established, somebody with some money and whatnot. So that his travel takes on a different aspect. But they're both great additions to the genre of travel writing. In 1903, London wrote a book called The People of the Abyss. And this is an actual real report. It's like it's actually a sociological study or a historical study of what life was like for the poorest people in London at that time. And again, at that time, London was the richest and most populous city in the world. And I can tell you, it is still shocking today, the descriptions that he writes about, what daily life was like to these people. Now, Jack London was also politically minded, and he wrote essays and books on his socialist beliefs. That tipped over into his fiction, and his 1908 novel, The Iron Heel, is a science fiction piece that looks kind of forward, backward at the moment when the Marxist revolution swept the world, toppling the evil oppression of capitalists. All right. Probably London's strangest novel is called The Star Rover, and it's from 1950. Since it deals with history, it does kind of have some crossover applications between naturalism and socialism, but all that is focused overtly on the concept of prison reform as addressed through, I guess, spiritualism is what you would say. His main character in that novel spends extended periods in solitary confinement, and he discovers that he can astrally project himself into the past and live moments of experience with people across the world. It's a very strange work. All right. And again, it's hard to just put it down to being, one category, one genre. Anyway, my point is, like so many of our authors, London is not just a naturalist. We can say that he is one, but it's just not profitable to us to reduce him to one category. The same has been true with practically every one of our authors. Categories like realism and naturalism give us a handle, a place to start. But once started, we really have to follow the line of evidence and see how each author made their way individually, doing their own thing. And that brings us back to kind of one of our original topics, the nature of American literature. I don't know what could be more American than being part of a group, being classified as a naturalist or a realist, but also being your own person and expressing yourself, your own individuality. As the great seal of the US reads, e pluribus unum, out of many, one, where the one and the many coexist in balance, but don't overshadow each other. All right, so think of it that way. I say again, it has been a real pleasure. So if you need anything in the future, I'm not going anywhere. Feel free and reach out to me. All right. For now, it's adios yet again.